Moving on to a NFC West matchup. We talked about that division earlier. It's going to be a game that's going to go a long way in figuring things out. It is the Arizona Cardinals plus 115 on the money line. They are heading to San Francisco to face the 49ers. The Niners are going to be 2-point favorites. 44.5 is the over-under, minus 135 on the money line. I believe we are still going to be seeing Mac Jones from the Niners. Brock Purdy, I believe, will be out another week, so keep that in mind. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Cardinals at Niners.
Boy, this is about as even as it gets. If you look at the win-loss column, if you look at the points for, points against columns, this is going to be a tight game in San Francisco with a very small chance, but there could be some showers headed that way. So we'll see what happens. Arizona's offense, I think, is going to come out. They aren't the fired up offense that we saw the last few years. They're putting points on the board just enough to win. The defense is keeping them in the game. Same with San Francisco, but San Francisco is kind of like the walking wounded right now. However, Mac Jones, I think he's going to have a solid game at home. That's going to be the difference in this one. I like San Francisco money line on this one. The over-under at 45.5. Boy, a couple of years ago, I would have said there's no way it's going to go way over. But the way the production for both teams right now, give me a half a point and give me under 45 on this one.
Yeah, this is interesting because I really do believe Kyle Shanahan could probably figure something out with any quarterback he has back there. And Mac Jones he's below average. There's no doubt about that. He's a fringe starter if you want to go there. But I think the one thing with the Niners is they have so many pieces that they can, essentially divvy up to, whether it's Pearsall or obviously Christian McCaffrey. And we're halfway through the week. I haven't seen any calf issues or anything like that from Christian McCaffrey. But again, it is Wednesday. Plenty of time, unfortunately, for that to go down. I really like Arizona in this one. Kyler Murray is still, I could make all the Call of Duty jokes. I could do stuff like that, but I really have, at the very least, I've seen progression from Kyler Murray. Like 2 or 3 years ago when he was, I think it was maybe his second year, he was borderline MVP or very, very close. The Cardinals looked like, oh my gosh, here they come. And he regressed heavily. It seems like he's back on track. And I don't know. I really like what the Cardinals are building. I like the Cardinals on the money line here, plus 115. In terms of the over-under, I like the under. I do think if the Cardinals are going to win this game, you got to need to keep it under. Don't let this turn into a shootout, even though it is Mac Jones driving that ship. You got Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall and a really good offensive line also chugging along as well. So I do like the under 44.5. Again, 23-21. I almost did 24-21, but no, 23-21. Something like that. Very, very close game. And this is going to go a long way in figuring out, kind of separating the teams in the NFC West going forward. And one thing that I wanted to bring up on the Charger game, something also to keep in mind, something I'm very aware of as a former Charger fan, that's not going to be a home field advantage for them. Besides the location, besides the banners, besides the painting on the ground, there will be more Broncos fans than Charger fans. So something to keep in mind. Anyways, final game we are going to be talking about today in depth. It is my opportunity to talk about the return of the man, the myth, the Bison. Carson Wentz is going to be gracing our screens this weekend. Oh, I love it. Everyone else is rolling their eyes. I am grabbing popcorn. I cannot wait. Anyways, it is the Cincinnati Bengals with Jake Browning going there. The Bengals on the road heading to Minnesota to face the Vikings. Vikings are going to be 3-point favorites. Over under is 42. Moneyline side of things, Cincinnati plus 140, minus 165 for Minnesota. Raider Jim, your thoughts on Bengals at Vikings?
And on the other side of the coin, you got the schedulers who thought they were lining up a great game on week 3. Joe Burrow against the flashy kid. He's finally there. He's going to be under center. Wow, watch out. We're going to have lots of points on the board. Well, not so much. Look at what that is now. The over-under on this is 42, and I don't know that they're going to hit 42. But Minnesota being at home and they've got experience back there under the center, I think that's going to be just enough to get them over the edge on this one. Cincinnati, I think, has to be in some form of shell-shocked, losing their leader like they did. How many times has he been the only one that's kept them into games and putting all the points on the board and just hoping he can get enough lead so that the defense doesn't give up the game? But wow, now it's just like all hands should be on deck in Cincinnati. I like Minnesota to cover on this one. I'll go ahead and take the half point just to be safe. Give me Minnesota 2.5. I wouldn't take it all the way to money line. And again, I'll take a half a point. Give me 42.5 and under on this one.
Yeah, I'm riding both of those as well. Obviously, a -3 spread. Some points getting bought from me, and yeah, -2.5 for Minnesota makes sense. And I think a lot of it, what it comes down to, obviously, both of these teams backup quarterbacks. But the biggest thing for me, and I do like Zach Taylor, but Kevin O'Connell is an elite coach. He can turn pretty much anyone into a average to above average quarterback. And also, too, for all my Eagles fans, if you have any ill will towards Carson Wentz, go eat a cheesesteak and walk through Wawa. What are you doing? He was the reason we had the number 1 seed. As great as Nick Foles was in those 2 games, he wasn't great before that. And we also traded Carson Wentz and ended up getting like Jordan Davis and out of that trade. So again, you can understand that we're better off with Jalen Hurts, but every Eagle fan should have a nice part in their heart of thanks for Carson Wentz. But yeah, I think this is going to be a under as well. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think Cincinnati's defense is probably a little better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. And Jake Browning as well. Look, he's not a inept quarterback. And if you're a Bengals quarterback or backup quarterback, unfortunately, lately, you've had a lot of starting experience because Burrow they cannot protect Joe Burrow. I don't want to say Burrow can't stay healthy. I'm going to say they cannot protect Joe Burrow. I think there's a difference there. But I also do think for Jake Browning, this is a huge game for him because if he doesn't come out and look somewhat competent, the Giants are getting a call about Jameis Winston. The Falcons are getting a call about Kirk Cousins. But I will say Kirk Cousins, I don't think is going to happen. Remember our old friend Craig Mizrak from the Great Friends Sports Network, big Bengals fan. The one thing he instilled into my mind is how cheap this franchise is. They are not going to go trade for Kirk Cousins and have to pay him whatever that is. I mean, they're the only team that doesn't have a cart. Joe Burrow had to walk to the locker room because they don't have a cart. Anyways, so, but, even the Eagles might get a call about Tanner McKee. So something to keep in mind. I think this is a show me game for Jake Browning. A lot of pressure on him. I like Minnesota -2.5. I think Carson Wentz, he's got more options, more weapons than Cincinnati does. And I also really do like Brian Flores. You put Brian Flores against a backup quarterback that doesn't get a whole lot of time with first team overall in the offseason, he's going to confuse you heavily. Yeah. I really do like Minnesota in this one. I also do like the under. I think we are staying well under. This is kind of like what you said, 2 weeks ago, we were going, woo, we might see some fireworks here now. Oh, and one other thing I do want to say about Minnesota, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have actual sources, but I listen to people who allegedly have sources. There's some talk that this is more of a soft benching for JJ McCarthy than an actual injury. Something to keep in mind, JJ McCarthy has played 8 quarters. He has looked lost in 7 of them. Now, He looked amazing in one of them. I get it. But he looked for the first 3 quarters of the Bears game and the entirety of the Falcons game, he looked like a deer in headlights. He wanted to be anywhere but on that field at that moment. So just something to think about, but we are getting Carson Wentz regardless. And you know what? We all should just enjoy it because we don't know how many more Carson Wentz games we have, damn it. Kind of tongue in cheek, but I don't know. I love Carson Wentz. I will fight for that man until the day I die, but also a really good guy as well. Just throwing that out there as well. All right. Stop stumping for Carson Wentz. Anyways,